Baruch here with genConnect, joined today by Don Baer. Don, I've got to ask you, you've had so many different facets to your career, so many different sectors. What's been the common thread?
Well, I always say to people that the only polite way to describe my career is to say it's been eclectic, but the truth is I can't hold down a profession.
Oh, is that right?
Right, yeah, so I've moved through a lot of different things. And it's all been exciting and interesting, challenging. I've had to learn a lot as I've leapt from one thing to another, jumped off cliffs here and there. And I've loved every one of the things I've done has had something great. I tell you, I often say, if I had to point to one of my experiences that has helped me with everything else I've done since, it was when I was a magazine editor, a news magazine editor at U.S. News and World Report. And that might sound funny given some of the other things I've done. Very creative job, which I loved. A group activity, a teamwork kind of activity, which was really good. And I learned there how you have to make many different moving parts work together. People, story ideas, pictures, photos, what goes into the different packages, if you're doing a big cover package and all of that, and sort of orchestrating these many different parts. In some ways, I applied that to my work in the White House, I applied that to my work at Discovery, I apply it to the work I do now at Burson-Marsteller. So that, I think more than anything, developed some muscle tissue for me that I've been using ever since.
Speaking of the White House, you worked very closely with President Clinton. What was the biggest lesson you learned while you were working with him?
Oh gosh, I think the biggest lesson probably was it's not about you. It's about other people and certainly about the country, but also even about many other people who have their hands on what you're trying to do. And to be able to do those things, I came in as the chief speechwriter, and you have this image of yourself as the guy who's going to write these great speeches. Well, it never quite works out that way.
Why is that?
There are a lot of other people with a point of view about what ought to be in those speeches and how they ought to work. So you have to learn how to have that creative impulse and nugget, but kind of keep it moving forward even as lots of other things are glomming on it. And then I became communications director, and that was true as well. But President Clinton, I think I also learned, not that I didn't have this, always respect the people. Right? Always kind of respect them and listen to them, because they actually have a lot more wisdom in what they're telling you about what they want to see the country doing than sometimes we give them credit for.
In writing the president's speeches, how would you get yourself into his psyche? I imagine you had to channel his voice, his thoughts, his emotions.
Well, that was one of the reasons I was brought in. Bill Clinton is older than I, but we're both of the baby boom generation. Both come from the South. He came from Little Rock, Arkansas. I came from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Not dissimilar places, although spread apart. Of a certain generation and a certain point of view, both of us progressives growing up in the South, which gave us a certain sort of attitude about things. And so I think that helped me to have a real sense of understanding of what he was about. He had come from a place that was really core in its community and people caring about one another, which was very similar to the kind of place I had come from. And I think that helped. And then you have to listen. You have to listen and study. I would look over everything he said. We would get transcripts, and I would try to pick up, the cadences and the tropes, and what was going on in his head, and try to sort of re-import that without being sort of slavish about it, because you wanted to add something to it as well.
Don, thank you for being here.
Sure, thank you.
And for more with Don, be sure to check out genConnect.